Hello and welcome to the Golden Hour, the Tennessee Golden Hour, brought to you by the Golden Offering. And I get to say Happy New Year to Beth. How are you?
I'm good, Matt. How are you?
How are you doing with those resolutions?
Trying my best.
You got past Genesis yet? You run
No.
out? Anything like that? I I'm starting on a new Bible, so I feel like a new Christian. It
Oh,
has
yeah.
no marks on it whatsoever.
That's fun, though. I love that.
Yeah. So we've got a great guest. We've been wanting to get him on for some time. Why don't you introduce him?
Yeah, I'm so excited. We have Travis Tyler, who is a pastor in my hometown. He's a pastor at Grace Baptist in Elizabethton. So, welcome today, Travis.
Thank you all for having me.
Well, yeah, just tell us a little bit about how long you've been at Grace, a little bit about who you are and your family.
Yeah, sure. I've been in Grace 11 years. And before that, I was in Southern Indiana for about, 8 or 10. Graduated from Southern and married a beautiful gal from St. Louis, Missouri. We have three wonderful, healthy children, sophomore, eighth grade, seventh graders, and all in school today, despite their wishes for another snow day here. It's still snow laying around, but not enough to get them out of school. So, and it's Leviticus you got to watch out for on the Bible reading plan. A minute ago, we talked about that. And that's the one that always gets everybody. You can get through Genesis, but all those laws are rough. So
They are. They are.
They definitely are. So, how did your wife like coming into this Tennessee culture?
she
Has she
likes,
been in here before?
she had never lived here. No, when we moved here, she said that she loves living in a postcard town. And that's what Elizabethton is. It is a postcard town. We could have a Hallmark movie here. It could be Christmas on the Covered Bridge or something like that. It's a beautiful, breathtaking scenery. Everybody talks about Gatlinburg and Sevierville, and I know we have listeners probably from there, and I love you all, and I have roots in Sevier County, but Carter County's prettier.
It is.
So
And you've been pastoring there for, you said, 13 years?
11, yeah.
11 years. That's like
11.
44 years,
Yeah.
dog years.
I've seen a lot of guys come and go in neighboring churches around me, but I've hung in here. And I think part of the reason God has left me here was to be here for September 27th.
I believe
And,
so too. Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about September 27th. What was that day like?
Well, it was my daughter's birthday.
Hmm.
And
Wow.
yeah, we were planning a family celebration that night. My day started early that morning. I had a church member who had bad lung problems and had died at about 3 a.m.
Oh, my.
And so I was on my way to the hospital about 5 in the morning when I got the call. And the weather was starting to get bad, but it wasn't, not to be mean, but it feels like the weathermen and women around here kind of drama queens. They're always like, oh, it's going to be bad. This is going to be the one. It's always Snowmageddon or Stormageddon or whatever you think. So you're just like, whatever. I'm just going to go on and do what I need to do. So talked with the family, got everything going with that. Came back, and where he had been in the hospital so long, his wife didn't really have any food in her house. So I said, we're going to go make you something. So I put on now this is about as mountains as you can get, put on a pot of, pinto beans. She wanted some pinto beans, made them in the pressure cooker because of the time constraint. And, weather was getting a little worse, like the winds were getting worse. The rain was getting worse while all this is happening. There's reports of power going in and out, but that happens sometimes, not frequently here, but sometimes. So another lady lives one street over. She got her stuff ready. So I was ready to go back to the west side of town. I live on the east side of town. I was going to go to the west side of town where this church member lived in the Happy Valley area, Beth. I know you know where that is.
Mhm.
And we started, and the rain and stuff was over at this point, and we had no idea what was coming. We were in my parents had loaned us their Cadillac Escalade. We did trips on that and stuff. We had all the food loaded. I had my kids in there because my daughter wanted to see some of her friends on her birthday, and they lived on the west side of town too. So we're going to make multiple stops. And first, we tried to go straight down Broad Street, and the floodwaters had already risen, and we could not. They had it blocked off. So I was like, "Well, I'm going to roll the die and try River Road, right there, and forget it." It was one of the first ones blocked off. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go up through Hampton and hit the new road, the Carter County 500, right? And cut over, and we made it to the jail, and the floodwaters were coming over 19, and it got to the bottom of the doors of our Cadillac Escalade, and we're all in there. I had no idea how bad it was, and we're seeing water everywhere. We have footage of it and everything, and we make it to Hampton, where the McDonald's is, and it's not passable. The waters are just rushing, and there's a cop car stranded on 19 because the waters came up so fast. When we finally, so I came back down and figured out a way through going through State Line Road and kind of cutting over off Sycamore and all this stuff. Made it over there, and that's about as nervous as I've ever been driving through anything, because I felt the Escalade move a little bit when I was driving through that water, and my whole family in there. I saw a guy try to make a turn in front of me, and it picked him up, moved him to the median, and it was probably one of the most scared I've ever been behind the wheel. Strangely though, my phone is not getting phone calls as bad as the flooding is, and I don't understand that part. So I start trying to make some phone calls to check on some people. I can't get a hold of anybody hardly. Like, if I do get a hold of them, I get them for about 10 seconds, and then the call's dropped. I can't get a hold of anybody with Verizon Wireless. Basically, from that day for about a month and a half, unless you were somewhere where there was Wi-Fi, it didn't work. I had AT&T, so I was able to get sparse coverage the day of. So we come back, and of course, it's way worse than what we thought. And my wife was like, "I don't understand why they're not closing these roads. What's going on?" I said, "Honey, I don't think anybody knew.
Right.
There's not enough manpower, and nobody knew where this was going to happen and how quickly it happened." And we drove by Valley Forge, and we saw the water just about get to the corner of Valley Forge Free Will Church. And that doesn't mean much to you, Matt, I know, but to Beth, I know she knows that. That's a very large church in the area. And I don't know that that's ever happened. And
For me, seeing as and Matt's towards some of the flood areas, from, Newport all the way up to Elizabethton. I think for me to see how far the water came, how high, how much water came through all of these areas, and of course, in my hometown, places that you would never imagine strong, forceful, deep water coming.
So when this happened, I had church members that were closer to the church. They I guess they were wanting to see what was going on because there was no communication, and so the few that had service, they started sending me pictures, and the water got less than 1/10 of a mile from our church campus at Grace Baptist Church. Less than that. I don't think that's ever happened. Like, I was seriously concerned that our church was going to go underwater. I was preparing myself for that, but it didn't happen. By God's grace, it didn't happen. So,
yeah. But you were able to work with, you immediately kind of begin connecting with churches and pastors, friends that you have in other parts of the community that were affected.
Yeah. So the first phone call I got for help and connection that got through was from Mark. It used to be at Calvary, serving there as the youth pastor with Joe, your buddy Joe Sora, and I'm sure he's going to listen to this too. And he was like, "We need your help at the high school. We have flood victims set up here, and we need ministers down here." And Mike, I'm going to tell you something. The staff here, the principal, Elizabethton, all believers, all passionate people that love the Lord. We're really blessed to have the school administrators that we've got here in Elizabethton. Went down there, started talking with people, hearing people's story. The day of the flood, you asked me before we move on to community connections. I drove, less than 1/10 of a mile and saw a lady whose home was underwater, within walking distance from the church. And she had 3 dogs with her, and she just sat on the ground and said, "I've lost everything. My cars are underwater. My house is underwater. Everything's underwater."
Just in a matter of hours.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And just from when I loaded the food to when I was able to make it back.
Wow.
And the water was still up. It was still in her house. And I said, well, how long did you have? She said, I had 10 minutes. I had 10 minutes. So I went back, got my truck, because I'm actually highly allergic to dogs and cats, because I can't have a dog in my car. So I got my truck and loaded her and her dogs in my truck and took her to right next to Calvary Baptist Church where her mom lived, and dropped her off there. And they just thanked us. And, I think she's still trying to pick the pieces up, and we've helped her with disaster relief and all that. But yeah, so before Tennessee Baptist, Texans got here first, but we as local churches just started banding together. I started working and getting calls. I finally got, to be honest, it was, looking back at it now, it was very traumatic, because I didn't know if my friend Jaron Street was alive. I didn't know if my friend Brent Snyder, who was in Weaverville, which that's a bedroom community of Asheville. I was getting reports that Asheville was horrendous. I didn't know Brent was alive.
Yeah.
And I had all these people calling me wanting help. And I didn't really have much time to ponder, are they alive? So I just sent them text and said, call or text me and let me know you're okay. Because it kind of got progressively worse up the mountain, and some of the other pastors too had kind of checked in with me in the area.
Yeah, and Jaron Street is a pastor of Roan Mountain First Baptist Church, which has been affected, and but also really served the community in Roan Mountain.
Yeah, he's got his own story. You need to get him for all the details with that. I mean, that would be a whole podcast. Basically, the whole church got rushed because they were the only place with power, and it was crazy. But so yeah, we started just kind of helping where we could. The first days were started working with First Baptist, started connecting up at Mountain City with Will Curley, just started as a pastor up there. And supplies began pouring in at First Baptist, but there were homes, because of the cell phone and communication being down. Do you realize how hard it is to lead when you can't talk to people?
Yeah.
It's like you had to physically go there. I mean, I had church members that were in the path of the flood. I couldn't get a hold of them. I had to physically drive to their houses and check on them. And praise God, nobody in Carter County died. None of my church members were even injured. It was mostly just property loss that they faced. But I had one church member who was right down the road from Hampton High School, and that school was completely destroyed pretty much. And she had stage 4 cancer. She actually just passed away. We were 3 days away from getting her back in her house.
Wow.
And she passed. But anyway, so I had to just drive. The first few days was just me driving around, checking on people that I could not get a hold of. Then I'd come back down off the mountain. I would have, 30, 40 text, phone calls a night. I'd be responding to, I may have talked to you or sent you messages at like 11, 12 o'clock, because these were the times I was getting home. Barely saw my family, barely saw my wife. Got to a point where began to send out ATV side-by-side crews, which would carry, in the early days, we needed gasoline, we needed water, and we needed food for people. And,
Was the power out?
Oh yeah. Power's out. Communications are down. There's no phone, no power for people.
How long did that last?
Power on Rome Mountain in some places probably wasn't restored for a couple weeks.
Wow.
In places like Pogie, probably about the same. Now the main roads, they got those up pretty quick. We have, so caps, whatever you want to say, good job to our power crews out here. They really did a good job getting on it quick. I've heard horror stories from Buncombe County over in North Carolina, and some of those places that they didn't think they were going to get their power back on till like now, and that's been September 27th now. But yeah, and then of course reports began coming out to me about Pogie, which is spelled P-O-G-A, but they pronounce it Pogie.
Pogie is in part of our state. It's in the very kind of tip-top northeast corner, almost North Carolina. And again, a lot of people that aren't from East Tennessee that'll be listening. Of course, lots of communities around our state are rural and small
Right.
county roads that
Right.
we've got to remember. In Northeast Tennessee, you've got a lot of mountains and a lot of really, really remote places that are difficult to get to, Pogie being one of them.
And you also have a lot of poverty, don't you?
Yes. So probably one of the most, I'd say, are we 2? Beth, is that right for poverty here? Second highest or third? It's got to be top 10.
Yeah, so yes, some of the counties in that area are some of the highest poverty
Yeah.
rates in our state, and yeah, a lot of people that, yeah, not a lot of, upper level education, just really hardworking, salt of the earth people.
Yeah.
So for Poggy, that was one of, as far as infrastructure went, they were devastated the most in Carter County. I had a former member who had moved up there who was almost killed in the flood. She was actually taken in the flood, was able to grab a
Oh,
rope
my.
and pull herself to safety. And she started messaging me wanting help. And I tried to get to her because 321 is the main access to Poggy, or, and on a good day, you could probably get from Grace Baptist Church to Poggy in what, Beth, 40, 45 minutes? Something
Yeah.
like that on a good day where the road's all working. And now it's an hour and 15. It's an hour and 15. You got to go all the way around the lake. And I tried, when everything happened, I tried to go on Buck Mountain Road, which is like this, like kind of almost like a logging road. And trees were down everywhere. I damaged my truck runners on the side trying to get over there to help her and just couldn't do it. They were airlifting people out of Elk Mills because they lost their fire department. They lost their bridges. They lost their store. They lost everything.
Yeah, for several days, I mean, over a week, they had helicopters coming in to drop aid, all the things. So, and again, I think a lot of people maybe still don't know all the things that were happening and are still happening too. I
Yeah.
mean, in these communities because there's still roads that have poor access.
Yeah, it was like a movie set because it's like on one side of town, it's like an apocalypse happened,
Yeah.
but on the other side of town, people are just fine. It was really weird. It was a weird dichotomy. West Elizabethton was fine, other than some trees being down. East Elizabethton just devastated. And then the east side of the county, where everywhere where the floodwaters went, of course, the lake took on an amount of. I think that one of my deacons owns a marina, said 6 feet of water rising an hour at Watauga Lake. That's unreal, unprecedented amount of water
Yeah.
coming through, and a tremendous amount of pressure on our dam that produces so much of our needed electricity. So they had to, where we are, we're kind of at this. We have one river that's right across the road called Watauga. It's controlled by two dams, Watauga Dam and then Little Wilbur. The other side's Little Doe, and then right where Grace is where they meet. And that's what happened. They both were being flooded and backed up to where they backed up. But anyhow, so
You said that Texas Disaster Relief got there, and Tennessee Baptists were there as well. And your church was turned into a command station.
not originally. So originally the command post was in Johnson City at Lakeview Baptist, I think, or something like that.
Mountain View.
Mountain View
Yeah,
Baptist.
Texas was there because originally the
Texas.
stream command post was in Dandridge.
Yeah.
Because you gotta remember, I mean, we had from Dandridge, Newport, Greenville, Jonesboro, Irwin, Johnson, well, not really Johnson City, but part of Washington County, Carter County, and Johnson County, all affected. And we've never had a disaster that's required 2 command centers that are 100 miles apart.
Yeah. I mean, I was so busy in the first week just dealing with my church family and my community that I really hadn't. I mean, I called Joe Sora and left him a message. We need help, Joe. We need help. And the first person that found me was Pete Tackett. Everybody knows Pete Tackett and loves Pete Tackett up here. And he was like, hey, we need to get everything connected and and I think the reason Pete was able to get hold of me again, I had a phone that worked. AT&T worked when Verizon did not. So Pete and I connected, and he was able to get me, and we got connected up with the Texas Baptists. And Texans on Mission were the first ones here, and they're wonderful people. I'm so thankful for them and coming so far and sacrificing so much to help our community. It really left a great impression in our community, and we have lots of love for the Texans on Mission and them coming here. So,
And then how long after that before Miss K and Tennessee Baptist Disaster Relief set up command posts there?
I'm going to say it was we had the Texans through most of right about mid-October, 3 or 4 weeks, I think we had the Texans. Then the Tennessee came in. Kay came up, and she went to school with one of my cousins in Sevier County, so we had a nice connection immediately.
Yeah. And you all done some great videos trying to inform the community and inform people on the process, because most of us don't even understand the process of this.
Yeah, and Kay's great. She's a great leader. She's very, clear, and she's very experienced, and we're just blessed and happy to have her here. And they came in, and we were able to adapt. And I want to give my church a lot of credit because, they've had to make sacrifices and adjustments to have all the extra things happening, and sometimes giving up birthday parties times, or giving up parking spots, or even giving up pew space or whatever. We used to have 2 services, now we have 1 because it's a lot easier to do it that way. And so we've had to make adjustments, but the church has been really great to accommodate, and very very much in favor of continuing the work and helping. And so they've been very accommodating and very helpful. So I want to give some appreciation to my congregation for the good job that they have done in receiving that work. So
And the command post is open again, or back
yes,
in
they are
operation?
back. Yeah, they came back right before New Year's Eve, a couple of days maybe, and I think they opened the command post, the incident center there on January 1st.
Okay.
And they have been open since then. And we haven't had as many jobs come in. I think last week we were about 42 for rebuilds, but the number I think has gone up some since then. I know that that a lot of people just didn't wait. Like they, if they had people, we had a lot of people just randomly showing up from all over the country helping people around here. I
Right.
mean, it was kind of wild. I mean, people from Pennsylvania, Indiana, Ohio, Florida, just showing up with stuff and helping people tear stuff out. And now there's also people that have waited, and they're like, oh, I didn't realize I needed help. I didn't realize I needed mold remediation and all these different things. And we're still getting some calls now for just come in and help me do the demo part, and
Okay.
tear out part. So that's even still happening. And the cold weather complicates it a bit, because it's like a lot of folks here in Carter County have trailers.
Mhm.
And if they went under and you pull all that stuff out and you spray, and it's a mess crawling up in those trailers. But like their pipes will freeze, easily, and then they won't have water. And so those have been barriers. But that was one thing that was nice. When Tennessee came in, we loved the Texans, but they didn't do trailers at all. They just didn't do that. And it was kind of like having your cousins come in and help you. Like they understand the culture a little better, understand the need. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And they said, we're gonna do some trailers, and we're just gonna help folks wherever they are. And so that was really really a great thing that our community was really excited to get that kind of help, because some of them said, no, we can't help you. And so that was a praise. Not to take away from the Texans. Again, we love them, they did well, but that just was their policy.
Yeah.
So, and I get it. Trailers are not, you cut into a trailer, instead of 2 buys, it's 1 buys and things like that. And you're getting into structural integrity issues, and people don't want to be liable. And I understand, but sometimes when you're in areas like this, that's all people can afford.
Mm.
So
What are some things that you learned as a pastor just about trauma and about people who are caught up in the middle of disaster?
Whatever you are in a tragedy, in a disaster, is on full display for everybody to see. So if it's kind of like Paul David Tripp gives an illustration of, if you shake a water bottle with water in it and you ask people, why did water come out of it if it didn't have the cap on it? Why did water come out of it? Most people say, because you shook it. And that's the wrong answer. The reason water came out is because that was what was inside of it.
Mm.
And what the natural disaster does is it exposes the heart.
Mm.
And so if you love the Lord and you love helping people in the Great Commission, and you love to serve as Christ served, right? Remember what he said? I didn't come to be served, but to what?
Yeah, to serve.
Then you will see that person on full display, and it is a wonderful thing to see. You meet some wonderful people like that. I have met people I think are going to be my lifelong friends.
Mm.
However, the opposite is also true. So if they're self-centered, if they're if that's what's inside is to worship self and at the altar of self, that is also on full display in the midst of something like this. And that's tragic, but it brings perspective and clarity. And so I think that for myself, I think as a leader, it's hard to sit day after day after day after day after day after day after day and hear about people's losses.
Mm.
And you don't really you deal with compassion fatigue. Like you get to a point where it's not that you don't care or you don't want to care. It's just that your capacity to care has been almost tapped out. I don't know if that makes sense. That's the best I can word it. And so you're still going to help them and still do what you can, but you can't. Sometimes I felt like I'm like, I don't know if I can handle another. What was really hard was trying to deal the balancing of pastoring and helping be like a local DR coordinator just by de facto because of the phone situation, right? I didn't, and somebody come up to me in the midst of all that and was telling me, hey, my marriage is failing. And it was like, had there not been a tragedy, had I not been listening to loss for a month, I probably could have been more compassionate in that conversation. But I was just like,
Yeah.
emotionally, I can't, I'm tapped out. It was hard.
And you've done those some neat things at your church, I believe. You all hosted like an evening to talk about maybe stress, anxiety.
Yeah. So yeah, we're doing a thing once a month, trying to do once a month's goal, stress management training, because you kind of have right after a tragedy like this, a lot of people lose hope because like the first wave of help leaves and they kind of return back to their lives. But the devastation is still there. Everybody's still looking at the devastation. It's not fixed yet. Then you have like another huge dip. And I think it's probably not hit here yet. Because I think since we have a 911 operator here at our church that's a deacon, he told me we had two suicides after the flood. So nobody died in the flood, but we had 2 suicides after the flood.
Oh man.
And so it's like, it's a crisis of hope. People don't have hope.
Mm.
So it was an effort to try to, the stress management was to try to help them with it. And I'm blessed here. We have some licensed counselor that's helping me. Mary's helping me. And Frontier Health is partnering with us to provide some folks to help with that. And so mental health and emotional health is something that is really taxed in a time like this, and trying to give people positive areas where they can, have that and hopefully turn them towards the gospel is really, I'm not going to cover up why I'm doing it. I'm trying to do it so people will see Christ in it. So
It's cool.
What it was Becky's role in all of this for you?
well, she kept the home running, she jumped in
You
and
need somebody like that.
yeah, she jumped in and helped First Baptist with a lot of the organization stuff. My wife's an excellent organizer. She's really good at telling people what to do. Like, you need to go over there and do that. But she does it in a butt-stuffing way that you wouldn't even realize that she's telling you, yeah. But anyway, she's really good at that.
Same.
And then she provided me with a lot of emotional support, spiritual support as well. I would dare to say that probably without my wife's support, I wouldn't have got half done that I did get done. And so, pastor's wife in a time like that is a really critical role that could not be overstated in my gratitude for her work and all she has done for me and our family and our church and our community. So
That's awesome. Travis, what are you seeing maybe as you look ahead to the future, unique opportunities that the floods have presented for ministry in these areas that maybe wasn't there before?
people that, to be quite honest, we probably would have never would have reached. We wouldn't have reached them with VBS. We wouldn't have reached them with divorce care or grief share or Easter egg hunts or trunk or treat, all the regular rhythms that a lot of churches use, we just wouldn't have reached them. And seeing people like right across the street from the church, we got a guy, he's wonderful. His name's David Baines. I think he's going to be in the Baptist Reflector. I asked him to help us run the warehouse up here because he took an interest in what was going on, all this big equipment, and all that. And I was like, I got a job for you, but because he said, hey, if there's anything I can do to help you, let me know. I said, oh, well, I got a job for you because he's a business owner. He knows how to work and get things done. And we've seen him at church, and that's been a real blessing. And, another guy we had helped, Mr. Dwayne Norton, he happened to see all the activity at the church, asked for a ride home, said I'd pay somebody if they'd take me home, had a tree fall on his camper. He's a widower, just moved over here from Asheville just in time. Right. And we helped get him another trailer to live in, and are helping him still try to get his life piece back together. So, just all the activity from hosting DR, there's a special blessing for churches that come with that. And the community notices, had a guy stop me at a football game here locally. And he said, I just want to say, now this is his opinion, so this isn't mine. This is just coming from an outsider, right? Your church has done more for our community than any church in this area. And that's not gone unnoticed. And I thought, well, I said, there's been a lot of cooperation between churches because a lot of our sister churches have stepped up and helped us. First Baptist, Calvary, a lot of churches come in, help serve meals. So, he said, I know that. He said, but you guys have done the most. And I said, well, I appreciate that. That was his opinion of what's happening. I think in the future, we'll have a good name and reputation, for that. And, I think we already kind of have the reputation of, well, if nobody else will help you, you can go to Grace and they'll try to do what they can to help you. I think in the future, these stress management seminars are going to be critical to keep doing. And I was just thinking today, I think if you're a pastor and you're listening to this, you need to seriously think about having an emergency plan in place that if your community has an emergency, like we did, that everybody knows what to do without you talking to them. So I was thinking, man, if I just had given my deacons a list of people to check on, probably could have saved me, many, many hours of riding around the first few days to just check on our people. Like if you can have some kind of a plan, other churches in place to say, all right, if communications go down, cell phones go down, you check on these 10 households, and then we'll leave each other notes in the fellowship hall, something like that. What I mean, just where you can come together. So I think that we're probably going to put some kind of plan like that together. And then I think what we're going to do is keep doing what we've been doing. And that is loving the people that have lost, some of them have lost everything. Some of them have lost some things. And I think that, in the midst of this kind of a situation, you have unique ministry opportunities and hearts are softened in a way in the wake of this that they just wouldn't have been otherwise.
Yeah. Well, so as I guess we kind of wrap up, Matt, I have just taken over on this little thing.
Yeah, go for it.
What would you say to churches across the state that are still interested in serving the communities affected by the floods?
Yeah, don't send any more stuff. Like don't send any more jackets or nothing. I appreciate the thought, but we're
on my old underwear.
No. Okay, no, yeah. I had people trying to give me stuff because they didn't really know what we were doing at the first. They just saw all these cars and people coming in and out. They're like, hey, can I give you like 300 pairs of socks? And I was like, no, you can't. What am I going to do with that? I would say, funding's going to be good. I think there was discussions early on. I haven't sent in a lot of the meetings. I've just been very busy with the Horizon Build plan. Adopting households, that I think that's good. You can contact a local church like First Baptist Roan or me or something. We can always direct you with somebody. Your church may be able to help. I think we need to think in terms of 1-to-1, one church helping one family. That goes a long way. I would also say if your church can't get on board with you on that and you want to do that, man, take some DR classes and jump on a DR team. Find a DR team and get on there. You call Ms. K. She'll find you a DR team. Call Greg Maddox. He'll find you a DR team. and come on out here when you have that training and all that. And we would love to house you, and I would love to meet you and direct you wherever we can to put your skills to work. So
Hey, Travis, you mentioned a rise and build. Could you talk about that just a little bit about what's going on with that?
well, I'm sort of in the dark, but from what I understand, it's all of the 8 counties are affected. Many of the pastors. We have a meeting coming up on Friday, and just everybody kind of informing, encouraging each other, trying to get some houses that were built. I know we have a partnership with ASP Appalachian Service Project to get a lot of the homes built. And so, it's an initiative that I'm still a little bit unclear if it was Brother Randy came up with it or if it was Wes. Do you know, Beth, which one
It
came
was
up?
Brother Randy. Yeah, Randy.
Brother Randy, yeah.
With
His, by the way, can you just say what's that?
I said with his proclivity toward Nehemiah.
Yeah,
That
sounds
Brother Randy.
kind of Brother Randy, doesn't it? He's been great. Brother Davis had done, we're blessed to have Randy Davis leading us here as Tennessee Baptist.
Who doesn't love Brother Randy?
Oh man, that's he first week, I think first week, maybe second, standing in my fellowship hall, ready to encourage me, right here on the front lines, right at the very front, and not just like making an appearance. Like I've seen some people come in, not to mention any names, but and
Please
they just come in, take photos, and they leave. They just come in for a photo op and leave. And it wasn't about a photo op. There were no photos taken. It was just encouragement. It was just prayer. It was just, how can we help you, brother? And man, did a great job. So thank you, Brother Randy. You're doing a great job. We love you here in Elizabethton at Grace Baptist Church. So, but yeah, man, it's going well, and being networking with these other churches that are working together. Were it not for the cooperative efforts of churches in our area, I know that in Carter County and Avery County, right across the border in Rome Mountain, more people would have died and lost more. I guarantee you that. And were it not for us cooperating for disaster relief efforts, there would be a lot of Carter County residents who would still be in the same condition they were on September 27th, and they're much further down the road. So over 500 cases helped, right, that I'm aware of so far. That number's probably well on its way to 550 by the end of the next couple of weeks.